This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such. Finally, this is the podcast every day in August. I almost messed up in saying April, but because I love this platform and I'm a creative, we are here to do what we do, and that is create content. So if you are not a follower or not a listener, please check me out on all podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Acast, Overcast, Stitcher, every podcast platform you can think of. This podcast is there. Continue listening. And this is The Past BT with your host, Brian, aka BT. 2 years with Spotify, man. Who would have known? I really didn't think that I would be this, I won't say addicted, but disconnected to such a platform. As you all know, not doing all of the extracurriculars. This is another episode. This is episode 297. And on this episode, as we get closer to the 300 mark, I wanted to give just a overhaul or a breakdown of just where and how helpful Spotify has become for me as not only a music listener, but even more so as a podcaster. To say what I was saying, I didn't know how much I would need Spotify until I really looked at just the amount of playlists, the amount of likes or liked songs that I've had. It's been just helpful and gotten me through quite a bit. And it's so interesting because I look at how many of my friends I've shared different lo-fi playlists or playlists to get through certain moods. Like a few weeks ago, I won't even say a few weeks ago, a few days ago, I found a solid jazz playlist that was just right on time. And it's so interesting because I can look at when I first got on Spotify, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna really be it for me. And at that time, I think that was when Joe Budden was getting ready to get his deal with Spotify. And right now, to say what I was saying, that they're in their contract negotiation, which I have nothing to do with. But on the flip side, because I haven't really listened to any of his shows before, there's a chance I could be getting some Joe Rogan shows or getting exclusive listen on those shows. And as an added bonus, Michelle Obama is doing a podcast on Spotify. So there are a lot of Spotify exclusive podcasts as well as Spotify exclusive playlists that have been just right on time. Like, I don't know another program where you can find not three, but 5 or 6 playlists that are just made for you to kind of like vibe out. And some of his music you may have already had or may have already heard, but it mainly is almost like a musical gauge of what you listen to. And I may have talked about this before in the other show when I talked about my 1 year stint with Spotify, but I think this year it's even more it has a bit more meaning behind it, especially with looking at the usage that I have in Spotify, as well as when I was in school, I was able to get like a school discount, which, no one in their right mind is ever going to turn down or not value the fact of, hey, you get a couple dollars taken off while you're active in school. So that helped out. And in a few months, that's going to change, but it's not. It hasn't deterred me from still saying that I like what I've gotten out of using Spotify. And I want to go ahead and get this out of the way now. I like Title. I just don't have a reason to use Title. I've had friends who have Title. Actually, was close to someone who had a Title account, and would listen to music from them. The high quality sound, you would have to be like a hardcore audiophile to really notice the difference. I've played music from Spotify numerous times. Haven't really caught much lag. The only thing that I'll run into every once in a while is that weird. I don't know if it's a glitch or what it is, where you'll play a song and like 10 seconds into the song it'll stop, and it's almost like there's a connection conflict. Could be with Wi-Fi, internet usage. I don't know, but um, even beyond that, I've just it. There are a lot of playlists. There are a lot of songs, a lot of artists. Fridays are always tough because whenever I listen to music from Spotify, I'm never sure who I'm going to listen to first. So a lot of times I do Discovery Friday or New Discover Friday or Release Friday, um, and getting what's out there. So I I'm not, like I said, this isn't like some huge push to tell anyone that you have to get Spotify, but I will tell you that it has been a game changer for me, and a lot of my friends have, like I've found myself now more than ever sharing playlists of just different artists or different albums that I've found or happened to run across. And plus, I guess my biggest feature is it connects with both of my smart speakers. And you it's very, I'll put it this way. The infamous Apple versus Android conversations are never ending. So I always say to people, when you think it's this perception of, oh, I'm all Apple, I use everything Apple, not necessarily. I've used out, I've have had Apple Music for quite a few years. It's not horrendous, but it's worked for me for what I was, at the time when I used it. And I'll even go as far as saying, switching over to what I'm using now, like with using Spotify and even just the smart devices that I have, the connection and the setup, very seamless, very direct, very simple. Um, but it's where I'm at with it now. Um, so that's kind of my overall discussion about my Spotify experience. I know this year, to do the review for the end of last year, I was able to realize that I was a Solange fan. Like I I would play I would play things I imagine, but I'm not trying to deal with copyright issues. Even though I put the disclaimer in the beginning, uh, I I've just been very musically balanced and like just listening and enjoying music now. Um, between my AirPods, between my Bluetooth speakers, between my computer, I've said it earlier, between smart devices, I've listened to a lot more music and I don't regret it. And that's, and I know I always, it's like I'm back and forth between the music and the podcast, but those two things have been like the lock and key of it. And just I think I've found a better flow of following podcasts through Spotify than I have through other apps. And that's no shots at any of the other apps because they all have the features and the ability to do whatever it is that you're trying to get done. But I've just found that it's worked, and it's kind of almost like the age old theory of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Um, I know it's like an early projection, but conversations have said that Joe Rogan may be finding a way to possibly use Spotify as a getting the video option going, which I think if they do that, that would become a huge game changer by far. Um, so yeah, that's mainly it. I'm not gonna give y'all like the run around with a whole bunch of extracurricular. I just wanted to at least come on and give like my Spotify, as the title says, my Spotify 2 year flow. And here's to another 4 or 5 years or eternity with using this platform, because it's been a go-to for me on every form of fashion of listening to music that I would have never expected, but I don't regret it at all. So that's what I got. Hope y'all enjoy the show. We will be back tomorrow. We are continuing the podcast every day in August. And yeah, that's kind of the basis of it. Y'all take it easy. Hey y'all, we made it through another show, man. Hope y'all got through it. Hope y'all learned something, gained some new information, either about myself and or about podcasting. If you're looking to invest in podcasting, I have different ways of giving you the information and the tools to get you to the right direction with podding. Um, I'm currently I've currently switched from anyone who remembers. I've been on Spreaker for years. I am a newborn in the Buzzsprout community, and I would definitely say it is one of my faves to use. And it's also, when it comes to audio, you do not need the most expensive microphone. All you need is a microphone that can catch your voice and can gather your words. So, with that being said, this is The Past. I am your host, PT. Hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and we'll be back to do this again next time.